Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're exploring a truly fascinating and honestly, strangely relatable topic in this explainer. I mean, have you ever just been going about your day and suddenly locked eyes with your breakfast? It happens. We're going to uncover the completely captivating science behind why we see faces in everyday, totally inanimate objects, and what that actually tells us about the ancient wiring inside our own heads. So, let me ask you, is your house watching you? I really want you to think about that for a second. Have you ever felt a sudden friendly gaze from a surprise toaster sitting right there on your kitchen counter? Or maybe you've walked past a car in a parking lot that looked like it was giving you this massive, goofy smile? Or flipped a light switch that suddenly looked absolutely shocked that you just poked it? It's not the start of a horror movie, right? It's actually almost comforting. But why exactly does it happen? Well, this incredibly universal experience actually has an official name. It's called pareidolia. Basically, it's the instinctual tendency of the human brain to find familiar patterns, especially faces, in pure chaos or just random inanimate objects. And this right here is the central mystery we're unpacking today. Why on earth is our mind so hardwired to find humanity, to find life in a piece of burnt toast, a random cloud formation, or the craters on the moon? To figure that out, we have to look way back into the deepest, darkest corners of our evolutionary history. Which brings us to part one, the pattern machine and survival. You see, at its core, the human brain is fundamentally a massive pattern detecting machine. To survive in a really complex, highly unpredictable world, our brains were built to constantly predict our environment by searching for repetitive structures. And out of all the visual data we process every single day, the human face is absolutely the most crucial pattern of all. To handle this massive task, we actually have a specific region in our brains called the fusiform face area, or the FFA. Think of it as your brain's ultra-fast face detector. It is entirely dedicated to this one single job, and it activates in mere milliseconds. I'm talking way before your conscious mind even realizes what you're looking at. It's a system that heavily prioritizes speed over accuracy. Because out in the wild, taking too long to process a face, that could literally be a fatal error. To really put this into perspective, imagine our prehistoric ancestors walking through the savannah at dusk. If they see a face in the tall grass and it turns out to be a hungry lion, they run away and they survive. If they see a face and it's just a rock, well, that's a harmless fear, right? They just got spooked for absolutely nothing. But what if they see a lion and mistake it for a rock? That is certain death. Game over. Their story ends right there. This is what evolutionary biologists call a false positive. Basically, we are all the descendants of those paranoid ancestors who survived simply because they saw eyes everywhere. Moving on to part two, the language of the gaze. Now, pareidolia isn't just about spotting predators hiding in the bushes. It fundamentally revolves around our nature as deeply social animals. Our survival depends entirely on being able to read others. In just a fraction of a second, a single face reveals so much vital information: age, sex, health, and most importantly, intentions. Are they friendly? Are they dangerous? Are they trustworthy? Because we rely so heavily on these really subtle visual signals to survive in a community, we become absolutely obsessed with reading them constantly. And because of this obsession, our brains kind of start working overtime. We end up projecting personalities and complex emotions onto completely inanimate objects based purely on their geometry. Take her headlights for a great example. When we see round headlights, that immediately triggers our brain to think cute and innocent, almost like a baby's wide eyes. But slanted angular headlights, our brain instantly reads that as aggressive and angry. We aren't just seeing metal and glass. Our brain is actively constructing a personality where literally none exists. Just a simple configuration of two eyes and a mouth, even on a wall socket, is enough to trigger an automatic empathetic response from us. Let's look at part three, anthropomorphism and loneliness. There's actually a more introspective, even melancholic reason behind all of this. Pareidolia isn't just some quirky little brain glitch. It is deeply tied to our visceral biological need to not be alone. And that brings us to anthropomorphism, which is attributing human traits, emotions, or intentions to non-human entities or objects. Studies have actually shown that people who are feeling lonely are far more likely to anthropomorphize the objects around them. Think about it. If you were the last human on Earth, your brain would desperately start searching for companionship in the inanimate items around you, just as a way to cope with the sheer isolation. This whole process breaks down into a few really fascinating steps. First, there's that initial feeling of isolation. Second, the brain begins actively seeking a mind in the inanimate world. And third, we project a human echo back onto ourselves. We see this ultimate quest for connection all the time. We project complex, highly nuanced human thoughts onto our pets, imagining whole conversations with them. Or, hey, if you were stranded on a desert island, you might literally just draw a face on a coconut and start talking to it. It's all about fulfilling that deep human need to find an echo of yourself in the world.
Which brings us to part 4, faces in the stars.
If we zoom out from our immediate, everyday environment to the cosmos, we see that this tendency has been with us since the literal dawn of humanity. When ancient humans looked up at the chaotic, random scatter of the night sky, they didn't just see burning balls of gas. They instantly connected the dots to see gods, animals, and legendary heroes looking right back down at them. A brilliant modern example? Take the year 1976. The Viking 1 probe photographed a region of Mars called Cydonia, capturing what looked exactly like a colossal human face, staring up from the surface. For years, the entire world was captivated. Was it proof of an ancient alien civilization? Well, decades later, high-resolution photos proved it was merely an eroded hill. The eyes and the mouth were just shadows. But you know what? Our brains had already made the decision.
So the crucial point is this. Our brains desperately wanted to see a face, completely overriding the actual geological reality of the situation. As the quote perfectly puts it, our desire to not be alone in the vastness pushes us to see signs where there is only geology. We just want so badly to believe the universe is looking back at us.
And that leads us to part 5, the brain that never stops.
Pareidolia is incredible proof that our perception of reality is highly subjective. What we see isn't a perfectly faithful photograph of the world. Instead, it's a constructed interpretation generated purely by our brain to help us navigate and survive. Check out this comparison. On the left, we have literal punctuation, just a colon and a parenthesis. But on the right, our brain simply refuses to read it as anything other than a smiling human face experiencing joy. Emojis are the absolute ultimate modern example of voluntary pareidolia. We have essentially hacked our own ancient survival systems to create an entirely new digital language. How cool is that?
Let's wrap things up with our conclusion. Programmed for empathy?
Ultimately, seeing faces everywhere isn't some flaw in our hardware. It actually reminds us of our distinct place in the animal kingdom. We are creatures uniquely and deeply built for connection, for recognition, and for constant vigilance. We are the result of millions of years of evolution, essentially constantly looking for a friend. So the next time you see a cheerful face in the foam of your morning coffee, or maybe a grumpy expression on the bark of a tree, don't feel silly about it. Be reassured. It just means your brain is doing the exact job it perfected over millions of years to keep you alive, attentive, and socially connected to the world around you. I want to leave you with this final, lingering thought today. How does your mind make sense of the chaos? As you go about your day, try to pay attention to the everyday illusions your incredible brain constructs just for you. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope you found it as fascinating as I did. Keep looking for those faces and keep wondering.